Welcome to Tech News Briefing. It's Wednesday, September 27th. I'm Zoe Thomas for The Wall Street Journal. Monopoly seems to be top of mind for regulators and big tech companies right now. It's not a game, though. The future of how we do things online could be impacted by two landmark antitrust cases, one against Amazon, the other targeting Google. We'll tell you how both are playing out. Starting with that Amazon case. The Federal Trade Commission and 17 states have sued the company, alleging the online retailer illegally wields monopoly power that keeps prices artificially high, locks sellers into its platform, and harms its rivals. Our reporter Dana Mattioli has been covering Amazon for a long time, and she joins me now with the details. Dana, can you tell us more about the FTC's claims?
So the FTC is making two claims in its lawsuit. The first is that Amazon.com is pay-to-play for sellers. So essentially, in order to be successful as a seller on Amazon.com, you need to be part of Amazon's FBA logistics program, which comes with lots of fees. And you also need to buy advertising, which comes with its own set of fees. And then there's another claim that because Amazon demands that its sellers have the lowest price of their goods on the internet, it artificially raises prices everywhere else for consumers.
Has Amazon responded to these charges?
So Amazon says that the lawsuit that the FTC filed is wrong on the facts and the law, and that they look forward to making that case in court.
Dana, this is a big moment for Chair Lina Khan when it comes to antitrust cases. Can you remind us why?
Yeah, so Lina Khan rose to fame back in 2017 when she was still just a law student at Yale. And she wrote a law review article for the Yale Law Journal alleging that Amazon is a monopoly and needs to be broken up, or that the antitrust laws need to change. And it went viral, which doesn't often happen for law review journals. Cut to present day, she is the chair of the FTC, which is the regulator overseeing Amazon. So this is sort of a full circle moment for her. She kind of cut her teeth on a national stage making some of these allegations, and now the lawsuit has finally landed.
That was WSJ reporter Dana Mattioli. The FTC is asking a court to prohibit Amazon from engaging in activity that it claims gives the e-commerce giant monopolistic control. But the lawsuit doesn't say whether the agency will ask the court to break up the company. Khan declined to say whether it would in a briefing with reporters. And staying on the antitrust front, Google's hardball tactics with smartphone makers have been on display in court in the company's antitrust case in Washington. The Justice Department is focused on Google's deals with smartphone makers to automatically direct people to its search engine. These date back to 2001, when Google began offering to split revenue generated when search users click on ads with phone makers. A few years later, Apple asked Google for an amendment to the contract that would allow it to present users with several default search engine options, including Yahoo. According to an email presented by the Justice Department, Google told Apple no. And it would not split its ad revenue if the iPhone maker offered multiple options. A Google spokesman pointed to a previous statement saying the company competes for default placement. Apple declined to comment. The case is expected to play out over several months, but it comes at an important moment. Google turns 25 today. Our reporter Miles Kruppa is with me to talk about this moment for Google. Miles, the company has been around for 2.5 decades. It's a verb. What's changed for the company in that time?
In some ways, it's the same Google that it's been for years. It has 90% of the search market that supports a massive advertising business that still makes the majority of the company's revenue. But there are just sort of signs that Google, as it is today, might not be what it is in a few years. So one, this generative AI boom kicked off by the release of ChatGPT clearly has had ripple effects throughout Google. Seemingly every product at Google, whether it's Gmail and Docs or the company's core search engine or even YouTube, they're all moving fast to integrate generative AI products. With search especially, this new thing they're doing called Search Generative Experience is easily the most radical change we've seen to the search engine in decades. It's still what Google is calling an experiment that will provide you a sort of multi-paragraph summary generated by an AI program instead of just sending you to links around the internet. And so that's a big change for the company. And when you pair that with the fact that Google is going through this antitrust trial in D.C., really the first major antitrust trial of its kind since Microsoft in the 1990s, and there's a potential there for this judge to rule that Google needs to change its business practices or even break off part of the company, there's enough movement around Google's core search business that it's really hard to say, even just in a few years, what the company might look like.
And let me ask you about the trial that's going on now, because they're looking back at agreements that Google made decades ago. What more do we expect to kind of play out over the next couple of weeks?
Well, the DOJ is calling a bunch of different witnesses. Google will start making its defense and probably call a bunch of its executives, including people who work on the search team. So there's still a lot of testimony to go through. What's been a recurring theme over the past few days and weeks is how much testimony is being held behind closed doors. So the judge, it seems, has taken a fairly permissive stance towards what the companies claim are confidential, proprietary business matters that must be sealed from the public. So we'll get more of that. And that makes it a difficult trial for reporters to cover and for the public to really follow closely. But we've gotten some interesting details on how Google has interacted with some of these partners like Apple, Samsung, major phone carriers to ensure that its search engine basically remains ubiquitous. The DOJ, the evidence as it's been presented so far, is giving the impression, certainly, that competitors like DuckDuckGo or even Microsoft's Bing are having trouble competing with Google because of the way it's been able to negotiate these agreements over many years.
All right, that's our reporter, Miles Kruppa. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Zoe.
All right, that's it for Tech News Briefing. Today's show was produced by Anthony Bancy with supervising producer Melanie Roy. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for listening.